Welcome back to my channel. This is Enrique. I'm back here with another video. Please like and subscribe my videos. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people recently, and I have tried very hard to make good content for you, and I will continue to do so. So today, my video, I want to pretty much talk about car payments and how they have affected my life, and how car payments are actually very toxic to your finances. So just like everybody else, when you turn 18 and you want to start driving, you run into a lot of issues. You run into a lot of peer pressure from people about, especially if you are a teenager, you're just learning how to drive. You have a lot of peer pressure from other individuals to try to get yourself a nice vehicle, maybe a brand new vehicle. You're at that point in life where you want to get a vehicle that impresses people. We all have very big egos. Around that age, we want to impress everybody around us. So we go and we try everything in our power to be able to get a very expensive vehicle sometimes. I know I ran into those issues when I was younger. And so you think that by getting this expensive vehicle, you're basically being validated by everybody around you. So when that ends up happening, you run into an issue where you don't realize that the car insurance actually is very, very expensive when you're under 25. When you're under 25, car insurance tends to be very expensive, especially if you get a sports car or a two-door car. So sometimes you can put yourself in a bind if you're not very careful. On top of your car payment, you have to worry about gas, maintenance, and obviously the insurance. Sometimes you put your parents in a situation where they have to add you to the insurance, and then all of a sudden, instead of them paying $150 a month, now they're paying $550 a month because of that 18 or 19-year-old that just started driving. So I think it's very important. I don't know how much of an audience here will be within that age range, 18 to 25, probably not a lot. But those are the people that really need to hear this video out. Because at one point I was in that situation, and I didn't realize at that moment what situation I was going to be in. When you get into these toxic car payments, you can't save money. There's no way that you're able to save it, especially when you're just starting your career, you're going to school, and you're trying to build yourself up. It's very difficult to be able to save money when you have a lingering car payment, especially in today's economy where car prices are all-time high, especially if you get a newer vehicle, even a used vehicle. Most people are paying over $700 a month. Now, one of the things that I do recommend for people out there, try not to finance a vehicle for more than 36 months. If you do have to finance a vehicle for more than 36 months, in my opinion, you're overstretching your finances. I made the mistake when I was 18, 19 to finance a vehicle longer than that. Luckily, I did learn fast enough during that time to be able to give extra car payments. I was able to find that out, and I did my best to pay off my cars as fast as possible. But I will never again finance a vehicle for longer than 36 months. That's just my own mistakes that I've done, and I think that everybody around me, now that I've talked to them about this story, my family, they all agree that having these car payments that are very, very high are very bad for your finances. It's very difficult to save. If you have a mortgage, it's very difficult to save as well. Sometimes you do need a two-income household to be able to afford, especially if you have more than one car payment. Now, if you do have a business, then yes, there is a chance that you can use this to your advantage to be able to pay these car payments through the business. And whether or not you decide to purchase a vehicle or you lease a vehicle, I highly recommend that you reach out to your accountant. Hopefully you have a good accountant, and they'll be able to give you the best advice as to whether it's more beneficial for you to lease or for you to purchase the vehicle, whether or not the vehicle falls within a certain amount of weight, or whether it's a luxury car, or whether you use it for what type of business you use it for. There's a lot of different businesses out there, and that all depends on what type of deductibility you'll be able to use for your vehicle. Also, whether or not you're going to do an actual expense method or a mileage method. So make sure that when you do reach out to your accountant, or when you do have your taxes prepared, you look out for that. One of the mistakes that accountants do is they don't know what method to use. So just make sure you do your due diligence on that. When I was younger, I was under the impression that if I got a newer vehicle, you're going to have a lot of new friends around you. They're all fake friends for the most part. It's people asking you for favors. If you are an 18, 19-year-old, you're going to get approached a lot from people asking you to give rides everywhere, and sometimes they don't even pitch in for gas because they're broke. So they want you to be able to take that burden, to be able to drive them around town, to be able to do certain errands for them. And it's all people just using you for your vehicle. If something happens to you or if you have an accident, those people will not be there to be able to help you out. So yeah, just be very careful if you are younger, and just look around you and see if you're being used, because a lot of the times that's what ends up happening. You get used a lot for your vehicle, and also you think that by having this newer vehicle that you're going to have a lot of women flock around you. Once you mature and you realize, especially if you do have the luxury to be able to own a nice vehicle, maybe a sports vehicle or something that's a little bit more on the sports side, you start noticing that the only attention that you do get around you is other men. If you're a guy, most of the time it's just other men praising you. It's not really the women. The women, yeah, they want you to have a nice vehicle, but as long as it's clean and it's well maintained, that's all that really matters as a man. On your personality and the way you treat people around you, that's how you're going to get a good circle of friends and people that really care about you at the end. So again, if you do decide to buy a new vehicle, make sure that you understand the consequences about the depreciation. I personally would not recommend for someone to purchase a brand new vehicle unless you're at that point where you have no issues with money. You have your 18-month emergency fund, which I've preached several times. 6 months, in my opinion, is not enough. I really do think you need to have at least 18 months of an emergency fund. So again, if you do decide to purchase a new vehicle, make sure you have all your finances in order. But also keep in mind that that vehicle will depreciate, and it'll depreciate very quickly once you remove it off that lot. Also, right now, as of 2024, there's a lot of new vehicles that have a lot of electrical issues and a lot of problems with a lot of recalls. So I would rather try to purchase an older vehicle, a little bit of an older vehicle. If we're in 2024, I try to get a 2019, a nice 2019 used vehicle that has taken a good hit on depreciation. And again, if you can at least put 50% down, that would be ideal. And if not, try not to finance the vehicle for more than 36 months. Also, try to stay away from German vehicles or Italian vehicles or any type of foreign vehicles that are not Honda or Toyota. Honda and Toyota, for the most part, those tend to be probably the best vehicles that I've noticed over the years for younger people, especially, like I said, if you're between the ages of 18 to 25. You get yourself a nice Toyota or a nice Honda, and those tend to last pretty well. I have seen that a lot of people have bought Teslas, and especially right now with the tax credit, maybe it would make sense for you to get a lower mileage Tesla that qualifies for a 4,000 EV tax credit. Take advantage of that before the government decides to pull the plug on that. So if you do have a Tesla, just make sure you do your due diligence, making sure that the vehicle is in good condition and that it still has a lot of life left on the battery. Those vehicles, the battery, they tend to falter out over time. So that's a disadvantage of having a Tesla vehicle, is the fact that if that battery does die on you, you will have a real large liability. So again, if you are going to finance the vehicle, just be very careful. Try to pay it off as soon as possible. If you can make additional payments towards the principal of that vehicle, I highly recommend it. Once you do decide to pay that vehicle off, if you have the luxury to pay it off within that period or even sooner, try to give good maintenance to the vehicle. Look for a good mechanic around you. Get some good referrals. I would, if you have an accountant, I would actually reach out to that accountant as well. Ask them for recommendations on a good mechanic. Sometimes accountants are a good resource. I myself am an accountant. I have many good resources for different construction people, pool cleaners, gardeners, just different trades. I have a lot of experience with different customers, clients. And so I know who the good people are, the people who will treat you right, who will give you a fair price. So reach out to different people before you want to get yourself a good mechanic if you decide to get this used vehicle so you can keep it in tip-top shape. Also, if you do decide to go to a chain mechanic, Make sure that you always get a second opinion, because a lot of these people, they do try to upsell you to try to get you to do certain things to your vehicle which are not necessary. So make sure that you always do get a second opinion if they ask you to do, whether it be a brake job or an alignment job, or they say, oh, you need spark plugs. Just make sure you have to be able to at least know the basics of your vehicle. What mileage your spark plugs are due, what mileage you need a new brake job. Just little things you have to learn about your vehicle. Always make sure that once you do decide to purchase your vehicle, try to learn a little bit about it as to what are the Achilles heels of that vehicle as well. And if you have the luxury to be able to purchase a BMW or a Mercedes or some sort of exotic vehicle, make sure that you have the budget to be able to afford any problems that may arise, because those vehicles, they do tend to have a lot of more electrical issues, and also those vehicles tend to have a lot of more maintenance pop up once. And when you do take that vehicle in, like I said, if you do take it to a mechanic, make sure you get a good mechanic. Try to stay away from the dealership on these types of expenses, as every time you go, you're pretty much paying a mortgage payment. Also, if you do decide to get a nice vehicle, make sure that you find out what gas it needs, whether it be 87 or 91 or maybe a mix of it, or if you do decide to get a diesel. And if you do decide to have a luxury vehicle, make sure you put that 91 gas, as that does make a difference according from what I've seen. Maybe you can try something like Shell or Chevron, or even Costco. I've heard Costco has very, very good gas. Plus, you also can get a Costco card and get some cash back. As long as you're responsible with your credit cards, you can get a good cash back credit card that'll focus money back on gas. Get yourself that back. But make sure that when you do spend that money, you pay it off before the statement closes. So that way you don't generate interest on that. I think it's very bad if you're going to be paying interest on gas. That's very horrible for your finances. So again, make sure that you do your due diligence on purchasing a good car for your budget. Try to stay within your means. And once you pay that vehicle off, focus on stashing away more money for savings. And also, if you want to invest in additional assets, that's another way of doing it. Instead of paying interest to the bank, you can stash away that money to be able to invest it, whether it be in gold, silver, or other assets, or if cryptocurrency is even your thing, you may want to go ahead and try to buy when the market is fearful. Put some money into your cryptos there. If you do decide to buy crypto, make sure you do your due diligence as well. I wouldn't put all my money into cryptocurrency. I know a lot of people say that they don't like cryptocurrency. Personally, I think it would be good for you to put a little bit into cryptocurrency, something you can afford to lose, but I would not be fully investing into it. Cryptocurrency itself has a lot of volatility. So you could put $100 in it today, and maybe tomorrow you can only have $60 USD. So just be very careful with that. Like I said, I think it's very important for people to be educated on this subject. I've ran into a lot of issues over the years of people I've known where they are stuck in car payments. They get their cars repoed. They can't afford them. They buy too much car. And a lot of the times it's also when they go into the financing process at the dealership, these people, all they want to do is they just want to sell you a vehicle. So it doesn't matter to them whether or not 3 months down the line you won't be able to afford that vehicle or the insurance. So make sure before you buy that vehicle that you are wanting, make sure that you go to your insurance broker. And again, if you don't have a good insurance broker, look around, do your due diligence, ask around family, friends, who do they recommend, someone locally, someone that knows the ins and outs of the insurance. So make sure you get a good insurance broker. Make sure you get a good quote as to how much insurance you're going to go and have to pay for that vehicle. That way you can budget not only for the car payment that you will have, but for your insurance, your gas, your maintenance, and so on. So those are things you have to be very careful, and you have to be able to plan for all this. Again, I don't recommend that you have a car payment, but sometimes when you're just starting out in life, it might be necessary for you to have a car payment for at least a year or two, or maybe even 3. But after that, I would be very cautious after your car is paid off. Maybe you want to take a portion of that money that you were paying before and just stash it away for your next used vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, and we'll see you on the next one.